The Lost Umbrella. On a rainy afternoon in the heart of a bustling city, a small, worn-out umbrella rested forgotten on a park bench. Its fabric, once vibrant, had faded to a dull shade of blue, and the metal ribs were slightly bent. Most passers-by barely noticed it, dismissing it as just another lost item. But this umbrella was far from ordinary. Unbeknownst to all, it held a secret. Whoever held it would experience a profound, life-changing event, an event tailored to their deepest needs. The rain drizzled softly, casting a gray veil over the city. Clara, a young woman in her late 20s, was running late for an important job interview. Her old shoes slapped against the wet pavement as she hurried through the park, her heart racing with anxiety. Clara had been struggling to find stable work for months, and this interview was her last chance to land her dream job. The dark clouds overhead matched the uncertainty she felt inside. As the rain intensified, she cursed under her breath, realizing she had forgotten her umbrella at home. She glanced around, hoping for some shelter, when her eyes fell on the abandoned umbrella. Without hesitation, she grabbed it. It wasn't in the best condition, but it would do. As she walked with the umbrella shielding her from the storm, she felt a strange warmth, a kind of energy she couldn't quite explain. Her usual nervousness seemed to melt away with each step. By the time she arrived at the office, drenched only from the knees down, Clara felt a sense of calm and confidence that was completely foreign to her. Inside the interview room, she sat down, clutching the umbrella tightly. The questions came, one after another, but instead of fumbling her words like she usually did, Clara spoke with poise and clarity. The answers flowed effortlessly. By the end of the conversation, the panel was smiling, and the interviewer shook her hand warmly, saying they would contact her soon. She left the building in disbelief. Something had changed within her, something beyond logic. As she walked back through the park, she couldn't shake the feeling that the umbrella had played a role. She gently placed it back on the same bench where she had found it, a quiet thank you, and walked away. The next day, she received the news. The job was hers. The umbrella sat quietly on the bench, as if waiting for its next person. It wasn't long before Mr. Howard, an elderly man with a hunched back and a cane, wandered through the park on his way home from the market. The rain had started again, and he sighed at his luck. With his old joints aching, he couldn't walk fast enough to avoid getting soaked. That's when he spotted the umbrella. With a grunt, he bent down and picked it up, leaning on his cane for support. As soon as the umbrella opened over him, Mr. Howard felt an odd sensation, like a forgotten memory tugging at the corners of his mind. He continued walking, and with each step, the rain seemed to lighten. Suddenly, an image of his old friend Charles flashed before him. They had been close decades ago, but life had pulled them apart. Mr. Howard had often thought of visiting him, but the years passed, and he never did. But now, under the umbrella, the urge to visit Charles grew overwhelming. He couldn't ignore it. The next morning, without overthinking, Mr. Howard dressed in his best coat and made the long trip across the city to Charles's house. When the door opened, two old men stood staring at each other for a moment, speechless. The years melted away as they embraced, and the bond they had once shared reignited. Over tea and laughter, they reminisced about the old days, forgetting the loneliness they had carried for years. Mr. Howard hadn't realized how much he had needed that connection until he found it again. As he left Charles's home, he thought of the umbrella and smiled. That evening, he returned to the park and left it hanging on the bench where it had first caught his eye. Days passed, and the umbrella continued its silent journey. One rainy afternoon, Tom, a boy no older than 12, stumbled upon it. Tom was small for his age and shy. School had always been a challenge for him, not because he wasn't smart, but because his fear of failure kept him frozen. That day, he had a math test, and as usual, he was dreading it. When he spotted the umbrella, he snatched it up, grateful for the shelter. As he walked toward school, something strange happened. The world around him seemed to slow down. The usual noise of the city grew distant, and for the first time in as long as he could remember, Tom felt calm. The anxiety that typically twisted his stomach disappeared. During the test, his mind was clear, his pencil moving steadily across the paper. He finished early, handing in his answers with a confidence he had never felt before. His teacher looked at him with surprise, and Tom left the classroom, feeling lighter than air. At recess, he returned the umbrella to the school's entrance, wondering if it had been the cause of his newfound courage. When his test came back with an A the next day, Tom was sure of it. The umbrella passed from person to person, each time changing hands in the most ordinary of circumstances. Yet, with every new owner, something extraordinary occurred. A struggling artist found her inspiration after weeks of creative block, painting her masterpiece in a burst of energy. A mother burdened with the stress of work and family life discovered a moment of peace, allowing her to reconnect with her children in a way she hadn't in years. A man lost in his career found the courage to pursue his true passion, leaving behind a corporate job to start his own small bakery. Each story was different, but the umbrella's impact remained the same. It touched lives in ways that were both simple and profound, offering what people needed most but never knew how to ask for. One evening, after a particularly heavy rainstorm, the umbrella vanished. Some say it was picked up by someone from another city, while others believe it simply disappeared, its purpose fulfilled in this place. The park bench where it had once rested remained empty, but the stories of its magic lived on. Some people in the city doubted the tale, dismissing it as mere coincidence or urban legend. But those who had felt the umbrella's power knew better. For sometimes, the smallest and most forgotten things hold the greatest magic, especially when they appear just when you need them the most.